Commander Aiden Hale had stood in many halls across human space, but the Vishari Star Hall felt different the moment he entered. The air carried a faint, metallic scent, like charged energy. The walls shimmered with living crystals that changed color depending on the emotions of the beings walking beneath them. Right now, they shone a calm blue. Aiden wished they would stay blue. Dozens of Vishari elders waited inside, dressed in their traditional silver robes. Their tall figures and elegant limbs made them look like moving sculptures. Aiden kept a steady face, but inside he felt the same knot tighten in his chest. This was the day he had hoped would never come. He had come to lead the Terran delegation for the annual Unity Summit. He had prepared for diplomatic talks, trade agreements, and military cooperation. But he had not prepared for an ancient promise he made when he was 10 years old, one he barely remembered. The hall doors closed behind him with a soft hum. His team remained at the entrance while Aiden stepped forward alone. Vishari customs demanded it. A bright figure stepped out from the elder's circle. She moved with controlled strength, like a warrior who was used to wearing armor, but was currently dressed in formal robes. Her skin was the pale gold common to Vishari, but her eyes were deep green, rare among her kind. Aiden recognized her instantly. Tavari. The last time he saw her, she had been a frightened young Vishari girl, newly rescued from a crashed refugee convoy. He had been just a boy then, a human child holding an injured alien's hand, telling her she would be safe. He never expected to see her again. Now she stood taller than him, confident, graceful, and fully grown. She was no longer the scared girl he remembered. She was Tavari of House Shallan, a respected envoy and warrior. Her eyes softened when she saw him. A faint green glow flared in the crystals above. "Commander Aiden Hale," she said. Her voice carried strength, but also something warmer. "You came of age as promised." Aiden froze. Ah, so this was happening. There was a rustle of excitement among the Vishari elders. His human delegation exchanged confused looks. Aiden managed a polite smile. "Envoy Tavari," he said with a respectful nod. "It's good to meet you again after so many years." She stepped closer. 21 years, she corrected. "Since the day you rescued me, since the day you made your vow." Aiden swallowed. The vow. He remembered small pieces of that day. Smoke, the broken wreckage, the terrified girl with a wounded leg, him taking her hand and saying something to make her stop crying. Something like, "When I come of age, I'll marry you." A childish attempt to comfort someone. He barely knew what marriage even meant at that age. But to the Vishari, spoken words during crisis carried deep meaning, especially vows. Aiden began cautiously. "About that vow," but Tavari raised her hand gently. "The High Council will address it soon. For now, walk with me." When she turned, Aiden followed. He could not afford to offend a Vishari envoy, especially not one who remembered him so clearly. They walked along the hall's crystal corridor. The crystals shifted from blue to a warm gold as the two walked side by side. It was a sign of emotional balance, something the Vishari valued deeply. Tavari looked ahead, her steps light. "Do you remember the crash?" she asked. "I remember some parts," Aiden said. "I remember the fear, the fires, and you. You were hurt." "You gave me water," she said softly. "And you told me I would live. You promised you would grow up strong and one day you would stand beside me." Aiden winced. He had definitely not remembered that part. Tavari glanced at him, studying his reaction. "Humans speak easily. You speak to comfort, to calm. But to the Vishari, a vow made in danger is sacred." He had read about that custom during training. A vow spoken when death was near bound two fates together. The bond did not have to be romantic. It could symbolize unity, family, or alliance. But in rare cases, if the vow touched on partnership, the families involved treated it as a potential marriage pact. Aiden felt a small headache forming. "Tavari, I meant no disrespect. I was a child." "Yes," she said calmly, "but I was of near adult age by Vashari standards, old enough to understand what you meant, old enough to value your courage. I carried your words with me for many years." He exhaled slowly. "And now?" She stopped walking. The crystals above flickered green again. "Now," she said quietly, "you are an adult, and the High Council wants to honor every vow that ties our two peoples. Human promises have helped shape our alliance. A vow from a rescuer holds special weight." Aiden looked into her eyes. She did not seem angry or insistent. She looked hopeful. "Tavari," he said carefully, "are you expecting me to act on that vow?" She held his gaze for a long moment, searching his face. "I am expecting you to listen," she said, "and to understand that I do not ask for your life, but for your honesty. If you wish to dissolve the vow, you may. But according to our custom, you must do it before the High Council." So this was the real reason he had been summoned early, he sighed. "I would have appreciated a warning." "You would have run away," she said with a small smile. "Probably," he admitted. She laughed, a light, warm sound Aiden had not heard before. For a moment, the tension softened. They reached the summit chamber. Dozens of Vashari and human delegates were already seated. At the center stood the High Council's ceremonial platform, shaped like a rising sun. Aiden's second-in-command, Lieutenant Mara, leaned close and whispered, "Sir, what's going on? Why did that envoy look at you like you're her destiny prophecy?" Aiden sighed. "It's complicated." "Is this about the promise they mentioned?" she whispered, because the translators picked up the word for marriage binding. Aiden pinched the bridge of his nose. It was a childhood joke. "Commander," Mara whispered, "their culture doesn't joke." He groaned quietly. The council session began. The lead elder stepped forward. His voice echoed through the chamber. "Today, we celebrate unity between our peoples. And today, we address a vow of importance, a vow spoken during the rescue of House Shallan's young member, Tavari." Murmurs passed through both sides. Aiden stood straight, keeping his expression neutral. The elder continued, "Commander Aiden Hale, you made a vow to Tavari during crisis, and Tavari has carried that vow with respect into adulthood. According to custom, we ask, do you wish to uphold the vow or dissolve it?" There it was. The entire chamber fell silent. Even the living crystals dimmed. Aiden felt dozens of eyes on him, reporters, soldiers, diplomats. The fate of the alliance did not depend on his answer, but it would shape how the Vashari viewed human sincerity. He looked at Tavari. She did not pressure him. Her posture was calm, her hands folded lightly. She respected his freedom. She only waited. Aiden took a deep breath. "Tavari," he said softly, "before I answer, I want to understand what this vow means to you, personally, not politically." She studied him for a moment, then spoke clearly so all could hear. "Commander Aiden Hale," she said, "your vow saved me when I was lost. It gave me courage to survive my injuries and rebuild my life. I do not accept the vow because of romance or demand. I accept it because your words shaped my future. But if dissolving the vow brings you peace, I will honor your choice." Her voice stayed strong, but her eyes held truth, a truth Aiden could not ignore. He exhaled slowly. "Then before I decide, I need to know you again, as the adult you've become, as the person behind the memory." The chamber burst into whispers. Tavari smiled, warm and genuine. "That," she said, "is a path I would welcome." The High Council nodded in approval. The vow remained, unbroken, for now. And so began 3 days of ritual evaluation, trials not of romance, but of trust, respect, and unity. And somewhere deep inside, Aiden wondered if the vow he had once made as a child was about to shape the future of 2 worlds. The next morning, Commander Aiden Hale woke before sunrise. The guest chamber the Vishari provided for him was quiet and peaceful, filled with soft lights and gentle warmth. Yet Aiden barely slept. His mind kept circling around the same problem, the vow. Not just the vow itself, but what it meant now. He dressed in his formal diplomatic uniform and stepped toward the balcony. The outside sky shimmered with floating sky lanterns, drifting like glowing seeds carried by the wind. Vishari cities always looked like living works of art, but today the beauty made Aiden feel strangely anxious. He had 3 days to undergo the compatibility trials with Tavari. They were not marriage trials, but they were ancient tests meant to measure unity, honesty, and the potential for deep cooperation. Humans had their own versions of such tests, just less formal. Aiden rubbed his temples. Why did I have to be a dramatic child? A soft knock sounded on the door. "Enter," he called. Tavari stepped in. Her robes were replaced with light training armor, smooth and silver, shaped to allow movement. She looked composed, prepared, and, Aiden had to admit, impressively confident. "Commander," she greeted, "are you ready?" Aiden nodded, hiding his nerves. "As ready as I can be." "The first trial begins soon," she said, "but before that I wanted to give you this." She held out a small crystal shard, glowing faint blue. Aiden took it carefully. "What is it?" "A memory light," Tavari explained. "Our people craft them when someone influences our life. It does not show images. It only glows when emotions tied to a memory are strong." The shard warmed slightly in Aiden's hand. "Tavari," Aiden said gently, "you didn't need to bring me something like this." "It is not part of the vow," she said. "It is part of my gratitude." He looked at her and saw sincerity, nothing forced, nothing pressured. She valued him for reasons that went beyond old promises. Aiden exhaled. "Thank you." She smiled softly. "Come, today's trial is the trial of harmony." The trial of harmony. The training arena looked like a massive enclosed garden. Giant crystal trees grew from the ground, their branches forming glowing arcs above. Vishari guards stood around the perimeter, watching carefully. Several human observers from Aiden's team also stood near the entrance. Lieutenant Mara gave him a thumbs up and whispered loudly to another officer, "If this is what alien diplomacy looks like, maybe I joined the wrong department." Aiden shot her a warning glare, but she just grinned. Tavari explained, "The trial of harmony tests our ability to fight side by side. It is symbolic. We must move as one unit." Aiden nodded. "Sounds simple enough." "Do not say that," she said with a straight face. "Every human who said that struggled." Aiden sighed. Of course they did. The trial began when the crystal trees released floating orbs of light. They drifted around the arena, emitting soft pulses. Tavari activated her wrist device, projecting 2 targeting symbols. "We must strike each orb at the same time," she said. "Same angle, same moment. Harmony." Aiden drew the light staff provided to him. "All right, let's sync." What followed tested Aiden's patience and reflexes. The orbs moved unpredictably. Some shot upward, some zigzagged, some split into 2 orbs. Aiden and Tavari chased them, trying to strike at matching times. They failed the first few. Sometimes Aiden struck too early, sometimes she moved too fast. But slowly they began to find rhythm. Tavari moved with elegant control. Aiden moved with solid human determination. Their different styles clashed at first, but then began to complement each other. Their final strike hit a fast-moving orb perfectly in sync. The crystal trees glowed bright gold, signaling completion. Tavari nodded approvingly. "Better than expected?" Aiden caught his breath. "I'll take that as praise." "It was," she said. Mara clapped loudly from behind the barrier. "Commander, next time join the gym more often," Aiden groaned. "I'll pretend I didn't hear that." A shadow watching. As the trial ended and they walked toward the council building for rest, Aiden felt something strange, a prickling sensation. Someone was watching. He scanned the nearby rooftops. Nothing. The sky lanterns floated gently, untouched. No drones, no suspicious figures. Still, the feeling persisted. Tavari noticed his tension. "Something wrong?" "Probably just nerves," Aiden said. "The trial took more out of me than expected." But he wasn't convinced, and he wasn't wrong. High above, hidden behind a shimmering cloaking screen, a pair of narrow eyes watched Aiden and Tavari walk below. The figure wore armor darker than space. A quiet voice spoke through a communicator. "The human is cooperating with the Vishari envoy. The old vow might strengthen their alliance." Another voice replied sharply. "Then we accelerate the plan. Humanity and the Vishari must not unite further. Prepare the sabotage." The shadow withdrew into the darkness. Trial of Knowledge. The second trial began that afternoon in the Vishari Hall of Archives. Tall pillars of transparent material rose to the ceiling, each containing ancient data crystals. Aiden stared around, impressed. "This place is incredible," Tavari nodded. "The trial of knowledge tests communication and mutual understanding. We will each receive a question from the other's culture." Aiden smiled. "I'm ready. I studied Vishari customs for years." Her eyes sparkled with amusement. "Let us see." First, Aiden answered Vishari questions, symbolic meanings of certain colors, the significance of their seasonal winds, the reason they braid hair in specific patterns. He answered most correctly. Then it was her turn. Aiden asked, "In human history, what was the purpose of the Terran peace accords?" Tavari thought carefully. "It was to end conflict among Earth's nations and unite them so they could survive the environmental crisis and move toward space exploration." Aiden nodded, impressed. "Correct." She smiled. "I learned from your people's stories. Humans grow strongest when they choose unity." The final question was asked by the council elder. "For Commander Aiden Hale, what is the deepest meaning of a Vishari crisis vow?" Aiden inhaled slowly, remembering Tavari's words. "It is a vow spoken in danger. It does not bind through force, but through respect. It means 2 lives touched during hardship, and the vow represents gratitude, unity, and the desire to honor that moment." The council elder nodded. Tavari glanced at Aiden with quiet warmth. "You understand more than most." Aiden shrugged lightly. "I'm trying." She looked at him a moment longer, and something unspoken passed between them. Not romance, not pressure, just mutual respect. The sabotage. Later, as Aiden walked through one of the side corridors of the council building, the lights suddenly flickered. Then they went out completely. The corridor turned dark. Aiden reached for his wrist light, but before he could activate it, a quiet clacking noise echoed from behind him. He turned sharply. "Who's there?" No response. He took a step backward, alert. The darkness felt heavier, too deliberate. Then, a faint click. Aiden ducked instinctively as something shot past his head and hit the wall with a thud. A silent projectile. A second one fired. Aiden rolled behind a column, heart racing. Someone was trying to kill him, and he didn't even know why. The attacker stepped forward, still hidden in shadow. The figure spoke in a rough, distorted tone. "Terran alliances die today." Before Aiden could respond, light flooded the corridor as emergency power activated. The attacker hissed and activated a cloaking device, but they were too slow. Tavari burst into the corridor, her training armor still on, her eyes blazing. "Aiden," he pointed. "The attacker! There!" Tavari lunged toward the flicker of motion. Her speed was startling. She struck the cloaked figure, sending them stumbling, but the attacker triggered a flash field, blinding both her and Aiden for a second. When their vision returned, the attacker was gone. Tavari grabbed Aiden's shoulders, checking for injury. "Are you hurt?" "No," Aiden said, breathing hard. "But someone wants to stop these trials, and maybe the Alliance too." Tavari's expression hardened. "The Dominion. They fear human influence. They fear what unity between our species means." Aiden finally understood. The vow wasn't just about two people. It was tied to the bond between two civilizations. Tavari said firmly, "We must warn the High Council. The next trial may be even more dangerous." Aiden nodded. "Then we face it together." And for the first time, he felt the weight and power of the vow he once made. Danger filled the quiet halls of the Vishari Council building. After the attack in the dark corridor, Commander Aiden Hale stayed alert. His heartbeat still hadn't returned to normal hours later. Someone wanted him dead. Someone wanted the trials destroyed. Someone wanted to end any hope of a deeper human-Vishari bond. And tomorrow morning was the final trial. Tavari stayed near him the entire night, not as a guard, but as someone who understood the risk. She moved with tense grace, her hand never far from the small energy blade at her side. "They will try again," she said softly. "The Dominion is desperate. The trials have gone too well." Aiden nodded slowly. "Then we need to be ready." "You are calm," Tavari observed. "Not calm," Aiden replied. "Just used to trouble finding me." She smiled faintly. "Then today will be familiar. The trial of truth." The final trial took place in the Circle of Light, an open arena on the highest level of the council building. Crystal columns circled the space, glowing with soft white light. The sky above was clear, showing the floating lights of the Vishari city drifting slowly across the horizon. Dozens of Vishari elders gathered. The human delegation stood on the opposite side, watching with careful eyes. The trial of truth was not physical. It was not a test of knowledge. It was a test of honesty and intention. The trial required both individuals to speak plainly, without hiding fear or pride. Aiden and Tavari stepped into the center. A council elder lifted his staff. "Let the trial of truth begin." The arena fell silent. Tavari spoke first. "Commander Aiden Hale, the vow you made in childhood changed my life. But I do not hold you to it through force. I want to know your heart. Do you respect the vow, even if you choose not to follow it?" Aiden inhaled deeply. He looked at her, really looked at the woman she had become, strong, loyal, courageous, someone who valued truth more than tradition. "I respect the vow," Aiden said clearly. "And I respect you. You didn't trap me. You honored me. And I will always be grateful." Soft murmurs filled the arena. Approval, curiosity, surprise. Tavari bowed her head slightly. "Then I accept your truth." Her eyes shined with something gentle, but also steady. Then it was Aiden's turn. "Tavari," he asked, "if I choose to dissolve the vow today, will you accept it without resentment?" Tavari lifted her head. Her voice was calm. "Yes, because I seek partnership built on choice, not fear or duty. If you decide to dissolve it, I will walk forward with you as an ally, not a bondmate." Aiden felt something in his chest tighten, not with fear, but with respect. She had not pressured him for a single moment. The trial was going well, but the Dominion did not plan to let it end peacefully. Sabotage from the shadows. Just as the elder prepared to declare the trial's conclusion, a sharp crack echoed from above. Aiden's instincts reacted first. He pushed Tavari aside. A narrow dart sliced through the air and struck the crystal floor, exploding in a burst of electric sparks. Chaos erupted. The sky shimmered, and a cloaked ship decloaked above the arena, hovering like a dark predator. Vishari guards shouted orders. Humans ducked for cover. The elders raised energy shields. Another dart fired. Tavari caught Aiden's arm and pulled him behind a column. "Dominion assassins! They plan to end the trials by force!" Aiden peeked out and saw 3 armored figures jumping from the ship using gravity belts. They landed with precision, weapons aimed straight at the center of the arena. One shouted, "End the human! End the vow! End the alliance!" Aiden's jaw tightened. He was done running. Tavari looked at him. "We must fight!" "No," Aiden said, stepping forward. "We must win!" HFY, humanity fights back. The assassins charged. Tavari activated her energy blade with a sharp snap. Aiden grabbed the fallen staff of an elder, its crystal core humming with power. One assassin sprinted straight toward Aiden. Tavari blocked the attack, her blade clashing with the assassin's dark weapon. The force pushed her back, but she held firm. Another assassin aimed a dart launcher at Aiden. He ducked behind a pillar, then rolled sideways, swinging the crystal staff. The hit struck the assassin's wrist, sending their weapon flying. The last assassin tried to flank them, but Aiden threw the memory light crystal Tavari had given him, not as a weapon, but as a distraction. The crystal flashed bright blue. For a split second, the assassin hesitated, and Tavari moved. She launched forward with a speed that stunned even Aiden. A clean sweep of her blade disabled the assassin's gravity belt, knocking them to the floor. More guards arrived, but the assassins fought fiercely. They activated a pulse bomb, a dangerous device capable of leveling half the arena, a pulse bomb that was now ticking in their hands. Aiden shouted, "Tavari! They're going to blow the entire platform!" Tavari's eyes widened. "We must stop them now, or thousands could die." Without thinking, Aiden rushed forward, grabbing the staff tightly. The assassin holding the bomb aimed to throw it toward the elders. Aiden slammed the staff against the ground, activating its shock wave. The arena floor rippled with a force that knocked the assassin off balance. The bomb slipped from their fingers. Tavari leaped. She caught the device, flipped mid-air, and hurled it straight upward. A Vishari guard ship targeted it instantly with a containment beam, swallowing the explosion in a bubble of light. Silence filled the arena. Then, cheers erupted. The assassins were subdued and dragged away. The Dominion ship tried to escape, but human and Vishari ships formed a combined blockade, forcing it to surrender. Aiden leaned against a pillar, breathing hard. His heart was pounding like a drum. Tavari stepped beside him. "You took a great risk. You jumped with a bomb," Aiden replied, "so I guess we're even." She smiled, genuinely, warmly. The decision before 2 worlds. When the chaos settled, both delegations gathered again. The council elder stepped forward, visibly shaken but steady in voice. "These events prove that the vow holds powerful meaning," he said, "too powerful for our enemies to ignore. But now, the final choice belongs to Commander Aiden Hale." The arena grew quiet. Aiden stood straight. His eyes moved from the human delegation to the Vishari elders, to Tavari standing calmly beside him. He thought of the vow he spoke as a child. He thought of the trials, the danger, the unity. He thought of the way Tavari always gave him freedom. And finally, he spoke. "In human culture," Aiden began, "a promise made by a child is not binding, but a promise chosen by an adult that carries meaning." Tavari's breath caught. The council leaned forward. Aiden continued, voice strong, steady, clear. "I choose to honor the vow, not because of tradition, but because I trust Tavari. because today proved that we fight better together than apart, because she respects my choice and I respect hers. Gasps filled the arena. Tavari's eyes softened, glowing faint green. The elder raised his staff. Then the vow becomes a symbol of unity between our peoples, not marriage in the romantic sense, but a bond that joins two houses and two civilizations. Aiden nodded. A bond of partnership, a bond of promise, a bond of alliance. The arena erupted in applause, human and Vishari voices mixing in a powerful echo. Tavari stepped closer. Aiden Hale, I accept your choice. He smiled. Good. I hoped you would. She reached out and placed a hand over her heart, then touched his shoulder, a Vishari gesture of deep respect. Together they looked out at the cheering crowd. Two people bound by chance, two species united by choice, a vow made in childhood, reshaped in adulthood, a promise strong enough to challenge enemies, and shape the future of two worlds.